Savitri owns SLR Real Estate in Brooklyn, New York. And tell us a little bit about why real estate. I mean, some people, their childhood leads them to electrical engineering or baseball or any number of
Yeah.
things. For you, it seems like real estate was kind of a destiny in a way.
It is kind of a destiny. So honestly, I actually practice real estate because when I was 22 years old and my ex-husband and I were looking for a house, we ended up buying the absolute wrong house for us because we were not properly educated by our real estate agent. We moved in, it was narrow. We didn't have a final walkthrough. We didn't even know we were closing, completely uneducated. I was just kind of like one of those warm bodies swept up in the mortgage, like the mortgage, the early, not mortgage crisis, but when rates dropped in, the early 2000s. We were warm bodies with good credit. And found that I was, had major buyer's remorse. And I was just like, instead of kind of falling victim to these kind of desperate feelings, I was like, let me get my license and do better and be better. And so that's what started it. That's how I got started.
That's a really great, bold decision for someone in their 20s. That's really awesome. Listen. And did you get started in New York City or elsewhere?
No, we were living in Seattle at the time because after college we wanted to have a little West Coast adventure, and I had family out there, my father and brother and sister and stepmom. And when the time came to oh, let's buy something, I was like, yeah, this is great, cute little townhouse, but it was like a tiny house before tiny house was a thing, and it was just a too small house, not even a tiny house because it wasn't functional. Couldn't fit the car in the garage.
Oh, wow.
Couldn't open my door to get out of the car. I had to climb over the driver's side in order to exit the vehicle. Not a wise decision. It's like 22 years old. I don't know any better.
Yeah. Oh my God. So you're starting in real estate. You're in Seattle. Are you working with a team
No. I started I would call it just it was a big brokerage, but of mostly, independent people. And it was a high commission split firm. So that was a way for me to, leverage my network and make as much money on each deal as possible. So I went into that, and I don't know how many agents they had, but it was thousands of agents. And, back in the early days, I'd only lived in Seattle for about a year. I didn't have a huge network, but I'm a sociable person. Yeah. And I ended up setting records at the firm. And even 10 years after leaving them, they remembered me and how good I was. So I was like, okay, great. When it was time to get my license in New York, Washington and New York don't talk, but I made them talk to each other, and I was able to procure my broker's license here and be like, listen, you guys remember what I did out there. I'm going to bring this sauce back home to Brooklyn. So. All
right. So you come back to Brooklyn. First thing, what do you notice that's completely different about, let's go big to small here, from Seattle to New York and then Manhattan to Brooklyn?
Okay, so Seattle to New York. Seattle is, and I've always called this, it's a 1/8 scale New York City. Everything that you have in New York exists in Seattle. It's just much smaller. So I could walk the whole city, in an afternoon, but you can't do that in New York City. And then just the natural surroundings. Obviously, Seattle has the Puget Sound and the Cascade Mountains and the Olympic Mountains. So you have this amazing nature that encompasses the city. New York doesn't have that, but it has its own natural bounty, I guess. Well, not natural, it's man-made through the big buildings and bridges and the rivers and the waterways. So that's the biggest difference for me, was the scale of everything and remembering how big and full New York City was. And then Brooklyn to Manhattan are very different places from an energy perspective. So Brooklyn historically is kind of like the suburbs of Manhattan, or it was when it was founded. But now it's its own city in its own right. And then Manhattan, it is energetic, and it requires so much from you just to be and see and explore. And there's always something new to do. It's I go over there regularly, restaurants, helping clients with, apartments or sales or purchases. And every time I go there, it's a new adventure. So.
And does Brooklyn seem to have more of that family energy, where you can build a life and a family?
Well, fair housing doesn't let me say things like that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But yes, it has a different energy. It's a slower, kind of more towny. You find your neighborhood, and it's kind of like you find your place to root yourself, and then you can grow your community and your lifestyle from there.
That makes sense. Thank you
Mhm,
for that correction. I
mhm,
appreciate that.
mhm.
Uh, so now in Brooklyn, what are some of the attractions? It seems like people come from all the world over to Brooklyn. What are
Okay.
what are what are some of the things that people just have to do? Some of the things that people just have to see.
Okay, so Brooklyn has some of the most beautiful and distinct architecture. So if you are a housing nerd, Brooklyn is the place to be. We have a mix of detached farmhouses that still exist. We have a completely Victorian neighborhood. We have, rows and rows of beautiful brownstones, limestones, apartment buildings, and high rises now too. We also have the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. We have the main branch of the Brooklyn Public Library. We have the Brooklyn Museum of Art. We also have Prospect Park, which the Olmsted brothers designed, Central Park and Prospect Park. And they always said that Prospect Park was their perfect example of how to do it. And they were practicing with Central Park. So Brooklyn actually has the better Olmsted Brothers Park. And then you've got Barclays Center, which is a new draw. We've got the Nets play there. We get concerts, shows, events. There's no limit to what you want to do. And then Mayor Bloomberg, over the years, when he was the mayor, redeveloped and rezoned the waterfront. So our Brooklyn waterfront now has, a beach. It's got a pool. It's got a park. There are things to do. The waterfront is no longer like scary. There are, like art exhibits, and there's no limit to what you want to do in Brooklyn. If you never wanted to leave Brooklyn, you don't have to, and you could experience the whole energy of New York, and you can stay here.
Oh man, that's great. And how many years have you been in Brooklyn itself?
When you factor my childhood plus me moving back here, I think I've been in New York almost 30 years. So
Wow. How
yeah.
is it? I mean, over those 30 years, I mean, you've seen all the growth, you've seen all the changes. Oh my God, that's beautiful. Uh, when it comes to your clientele, and you mentioned that you start in Seattle, you build out with really great outreach and customer service. How do you do it in New York? How do you transfer that energy and that skill set to the big city, for lack of a
To the
better
big city.
term?
Well, honestly, I kind of took some of the West Coast vibe and brought it and connected it to my Brooklyn energy. And that
Okay.
created this amazing hybrid where I was able to show clients that working with someone who has either, been in New York when they were younger or come back as an adult, like like both sides of being a Brooklynite. It's like being a local and kind of being a transplant. So I can speak both languages and help you like adjust and adapt to the culture. And I also like really matchmake because I so intimately know Brooklyn that I can say, okay, like if you're coming from Manhattan and you want to move to Brooklyn and the energy that you want to translate, I can help translate the Manhattan energy to a Brooklyn neighborhood and vice versa, because not all my clients are Brooklyn based. It's like
Right.
there's 5 boroughs. I've sold everywhere but Staten Island. I'm sorry, Staten Island. I've not sold in Staten Island. I will one day,
Right.
but so far it hasn't happened yet. I've helped people leave Staten Island. Um, but just bringing my knowledge and my experience, and then the collaborative process that I utilize, and I end up making my colleagues across the table and we have very successful relationships. But we're both working for individual clients, but they respect my professionalism and my knowledge, and I think
Yeah.
outside of the box and help solve problems. And then change the course of people's lives, whether I'm helping them buy or sell.
You built a team. Talk about your company and your team.
So that was created out of necessity. I used to be a solo practicing broker. So I was a fully independent broker, no longer affiliated with a big corporate firm. And I was practicing by myself for a number of years. And then COVID made me kind of pivot and realize that I wanted to actually have people under me who worked with me, who were boots on the ground, because COVID made our job illegal for a number of months in New York City. It was actually, we were not legally allowed to practice real estate, but I still needed to close sales. I still need to help people
Hmm.
finalize their transactions, and the only way to do that was to have people who are willing to help me be my legs on the ground.
Right.
And what I did is I shifted gears, redesigned the website, started advertising and recruiting, and ended up with a small team right now, but we're growing. And we are
Yeah.
actually looking to hire. So like I'll plug what I'm looking for later.
Sounds
But
good.
basically, I took a collection of like-minded people who are, either Brooklyn natives or have been here long enough that, we leverage every aspect of our network in order to help our clients. And we are client and community focused. And that's who we attract, and our clients love that.
Yeah. How have you adapted to the social media? Because when I can speak for myself, when I was in college, that was not a thing.
Yeah.
The first time I saw the Facebook was at my college roommate's girlfriend's dorm, and I knew two things. One, it was going to be big, and two, I was too broke to be an institutional investor. So these things were not going to. I do not own an island right now.
So the funny thing with me and social media is I am a naturally social, gregarious, outgoing person, but I absolutely hate stopping what I'm doing to record it or photograph it. So for me, I have to physically remind myself, oh, capture this moment so I can share it. Yeah. But it just, it takes me out of the moment to do that. So what I'm kind of reconciling with is I'm trying to make it so that I just happen to have it recording, and then something brilliant comes out of my mouth, or I happen to be here and I see something beautiful and I want to share it. So I'm trying to willing to document it now so I can either share it with my friends or family later. And then, that makes me want to share it online as well. But it's not natural, and I'm trying to get over it. And I do a couple of, videos and, touching base about things and just kind of replaying things that I've done in the past to help clients, just to, help people understand the difference with working with me. And social media is one of the easiest ways to get in front of the eyeballs. So
yeah. And what are some of the best practices you've seen, either for yourself or for some other agents out there that have really worked?
Being honest about your knowledge base and your experience. Clients don't like it when you lie to them. So I'm always honest and I'm always real. I don't kind of beat around the bush and make up numbers to make you feel good. I give it to my clients straight. And that's honestly the best way to have a long-term career. And I work personally, my firm works with, the public, but I personally only work by referral. So in order to come to me, somebody has to know me, or I have to have met you myself. And you don't build that kind of relationship that results in that kind of continuous flow of referral business if people don't trust you.
No. And it doesn't happen overnight either.
No, it takes years to build.
So you have to have not only a couple good days, you have to have a good track record over many years.
Yeah.
That's
it's
great.
Positive record. And, if I'm helping sellers, I'm getting them the most money. If I'm helping buyers, I'm helping them make a sound decision. And what I call it is, I actually call, when I help people buy, I call it minting millionaires, because I'm planting the seeds to help you become, very comfortable in the future. And when I look back at a 5-year average of my buyers, on average, they've got at least 50-60% appreciation after they've bought with me. And that's just the appreciation. That doesn't include, what work they may have done or what, rental income they're getting. But, it's the returns. I'm a very good return on investment. If you listen to me and you buy the thing that I tell you to buy, or help you buy, you end up very comfortable in the near future.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, I got to get into it because you mentioned it. When you hire somebody, what are you looking for? If someone's going to be on your team, what are some of the attributes that are must-haves?
You have to be honest. You have to be trustworthy. You have to be proactive. There's a lot of people out there who think that they are proactive, but really they are reactive to tasks. So what I do is I sit down and I help my agents figure out where they have natural strengths that can translate to real estate. And honestly, everything is related to real estate. Real estate is everywhere. Go to your favorite restaurant, real estate was involved because of location and build out. Where you live, same thing. Where you go have fun, same thing. Everything is real estate. So I help people see that and then see what parts of their personality naturally translate to real estate. So if you're very good at art and you like to go to museums and collections, there's a way to translate that into real estate as well. So it's okay, you see these pieces. Where do these pieces belong? What type of property would they look good in? This modern art museum looks good in these kinds of lofts, and the statues can go in this property that has a backyard. That kind of thing, help you bridge that gap. And then also to remind you to not be shy about what you do. You're not hurting anybody when you're offering, your sound advice regarding real estate. Real estate is everywhere and it's everything.
Yeah. And I think what you said about being honest has been very important for me too, because when people ask, about career coaching, I say, look, There are two things. One, I am a personal trainer, not a surgeon.
Mhm,
I'm here because I've made all the mistakes. I'm
mhm,
here because I've screwed it up, and I'm also here to make sure that you're staying on task. Can I
mhm.
repair every situation? No. Can I even repair most situations? Probably not. But I can make you better than you were yesterday.
Exactly.
And that has worked well. I think one of the things about it too is that you mentioned agents that have different strengths and different weaknesses.
Mhm.
Uh, does that really help in terms of how they collaborate together, or are they all largely working independently?
So it just depends on the client's needs. So with like listings, for example, I'm primarily the listing broker just because I've got the most experience. So
Yeah.
when I take on a listing, I let my sellers know, listen, I have a number of sales agents who work under me. We work in pairs because, for safety perspective, real estate is not
Yeah.
necessarily the safest job out there. And if you're alone in a 3,000 square foot house and there's strangers walking in, that's not safe. So my clients know that, okay, there will be multiple of us in the property at any given time. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's a bunch of keys floating around there, like I hold the keys. um, but what we do is like we just keep clear communication, and then that helps everyone be more comfortable. And then, like, if I'm working an open house and I have one of my sales associates with me, then we divvy up, if new unrepresented buyers walk in, then leads get assigned. And then our sellers know that our primary focus is to find them the best buyer. And me having multiple eyes that have been trained by me helps me help them identify the right buyer. So it's a win-win for everybody. And I call us more of a collaboration instead of a team. And it's, it's just, words, but with a collaboration, I like to think of it more so like, one of those like big albums that comes out where you get a bunch of different singers together for a
Yeah.
cause. That's how we are. Versus a team is just like, a boy band or a girl band. Like
Yes.
they're only looking out for their album sales, but that's not it.
Right.
Like as a collaboration, we are looking out for what is the greatest good. So, and we
Yeah.
utilize each other's strengths for that. It's like, I'm very good at everything. And then, one of my agents is very good with this aspect, and another one is good with a different aspect. And you combine that together, and all of a sudden, you've got a super force, and our clients have, a higher sales price and, their choice of buyer.
Yeah. This is the month where students graduate from high school and college. They move on to new lives and different things. Um,
Hmm.
I think you and I both mentioned we're philosophy majors.
Yeah.
Uh, for the class of 2023, if any of them have an inkling to go into real estate, even if they majored in philosophy like us, talk about what about it you recommend and what it is that they need to prepare for.
So I highly recommend you getting into real estate as young as possible. First of all, I don't think that age is a deterrent to being successful in this business whatsoever, especially with the way technology has helped make my business more global. We're more connected, and there's ways. And then COVID taught me this, that I can sell real estate without actually being in New York City. I can,
Yeah.
as long as there's boots on the ground opening the door, I can do everything else. Phone, email, whatnot. So for younger people, they've spent the last 3 years at least, doing everything, with technology. Technology makes it easier, and the younger you are, the better you are at it. So don't be afraid of your age, and don't let that discourage you. I've been practicing real estate for 19 years. I'm 42 now. So what was that? I was 23 when I got my license. Okay. That was young. And I was, 2 years out of college and in a new city, but I played to my strength. So when you're young, you've got social media, you know how to utilize technology. You have seen things and experienced things with access to the internet, and there's unlimited information for you. So there's no excuse, there's no gatekeeping when it comes to how do
Right.
I get into this part? How do I get into that part? And just a matter of, if you have the proactiveness in you, if you are ready to do what you need to do, then teach yourself things. And it is okay to be honest with people and say, hey, I'm new, I just got my license, but I'm very eager to help you. And you'd be surprised. There are so many people out there who believe in your youth and your vigor and your desire to try to be something, to help you figure out who you are. Some of the most successful agents I know, are very young, and they've sold, tens of millions of real estate already. And, they're investing themselves. They, following that footprint. And the younger you are, the better it is, I think. So go ahead and get it if you're curious. I think
Yeah.
everybody should get their license, but that's another conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I think also one of the things you're talking about there is the courage and the willingness to fail and the willingness to
Mhm.
take a chance and the willingness to build the plane while you're flying it.
Yeah.
Uh,
And real
have you-
estate's a very up and down business. Like there are
Yeah.
super high highs and super low lows. And the younger you are, usually the more adaptable you are to overcoming the challenges.
Yeah.
So
What about you? Is it an element of your personality that enables you to handle those cycles? Is it something? Is there a particular philosophy, for lack of a better word?
I honestly think that the personality trait or the thought or the mindset that you have to have in order to successfully handle the ups and the downs is that this too shall pass. So, that's like kind of like a universal paradigm, I guess, in sales or in life in general. This too shall pass, whether it's good or bad. You can't be stuck in this moment. You don't have to stay there. So I think that's what I use in order to get over things. Because the lows are really low and the highs are really high, but I never get stuck in any one of those sections because those are paralyzing,
Right.
the positive and the negative.
And I think also too, because you started young, you've seen it all before.
Oh yeah.
You've seen it come, you've seen it go,
Yep.
and you got to mature in parallel with that, which is really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And then, during the the Great Recession of 08 to 2012, I was able to see even more, in the market. So it's like, oh, okay, that's a lot. That's a lot of life was lived in those 4 years.
Yeah.
A lot of changes.
And I think also the one thing I saw anyway come out of 2008 was that people got afraid. And sometimes that fear was useful because it kept people out of situations that would have ruined their life.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it also, we're 28, we were 28, 27 at the time. I think in some ways it set us back a few years in terms of that. So I'm really thrilled that you were able to push through that and start early. That's really great.
Yeah, it was not easy because I had, my kids are 16. So in 2008 they were 2 and the world fell apart. And it's like, I'm in sales. The world fell apart. Nobody can close on a house. I was in Seattle. Like there was not a lot of cash in Seattle, but somehow we're still here.
Yes.
We made it. So,
Yes.
there were definitely, adaptations and adjustments that needed to be made, but I took all of those lessons in stride and I used that to help me bridge the gap with clients now. So like if I find a distressed property owner, so meaning like a home that's in financial distress, because of my experience, overcoming, 2008 to 2012, and I was licensed as a real estate professional and I was also working as a paralegal because I had to. And it's like, I never wanted to have 2 jobs, but I had to. But like the knowledge that I gained from being a paralegal really helps me make those clients feel more secure because I know how the foreclosure process works. I know how the bankruptcy process works. I know how the short sale process works. I know all the alternatives to help you kind of get out of these situations and grow from them. And then like, this doesn't have to define you, this moment of down. It's like, yes, let me sell this and then I'll help you rebuild someplace better and you'll be stronger and more fortunate on the other side.
Right, because you're teaching people not just to ride the wave, but to shelter from the storm, because you've seen.
No. Yeah, sometimes you have to let go in order to grow.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. Talk a little bit about. I know there are a lot of real estate influencers out there. Please tell me some of them are approaching you to go on their shows. Come on.
Not yet, but a lot of the, I guess, personalities that I see online, I have had experiences with them offline where, like either they're bringing me a client or a customer or we're having some type of interaction. And, for the most part, it's been fine. And then with some of them, I'm like, okay, let's dig a little deeper here in order to get this done. But but that's the nature of putting on the show. Like that's what social media is. It is reality TV in our phones and in our pockets. It's a show.
Is.
So
the reason I say that The reason I say that is that people just got to get more people just got to get to know you.
Yeah.
And with regard to that, just let everyone know where they can find you online and in social media. I know in real life is twice as good, 10 times as good.
Yeah.
Just to get them started.
I'm best served in person, okay? But that means you guys have to come to Brooklyn, which is great, and I'd be more than happy to meet you. But I am online. On Instagram, you can follow me personally at Savitrealty. Realty. So it's SAVITREALTY. That's my Instagram handle. It's very difficult because my first name is complicated. I didn't make it easy, but it says real estate and it's me. And then you can also follow the company, and that's _SLR real estate _ on Instagram. We're also online at www.slr-realestate.com. We've got a very nice profile on Google. We've got a page on Facebook as well. And, we're licensed in New York, but we can help you anywhere because my network is very vast and wide. Like I said, I'm a social butterfly. I've got people all over the country. And I also have connections in Portugal, Panama, Spain, England, and I'm working on getting some connections in Asia too. So it's like international, global relocation. So
that's awesome. Savitri, you're the best. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. You too. Bye.
Take care.